One deity vows to take 1,000 human lives every day. Another answers with 1,500 births, not by erasing the sentence, but by forcing life to outrun it. That single piece of divine arithmetic sits at the end of this list, but it reveals the pattern every earlier curse on this list establishes first. In mythology, a divine curse was not always a spoken spell. It could be a transformation, an inherited affliction, a supernatural sentence with no mortal appeal, or a vow that permanently changed the victim's world. A divine curse does not merely injure its victim, it changes the conditions under which that victim must live, and sometimes makes resistance part of the punishment itself. The most terrifying divine punishments do not always kill their victims. Death can end pain. A curse can trap someone inside a punishment that becomes the new law of their world, whether that world lasts 3,000 years or only a few terrible minutes. So, the question this list asks is simple. When ordinary punishment is not enough, what do the gods build instead? We start small, with the collapse of one woman's voice. In one influential tradition, Apollo grants Cassandra a prophecy while seeking her love. When she rejects him, he answers by ensuring that no one will believe what she foresees. A later telling makes the punishment physical. Apollo spits into her mouth, leaving the prophecy intact but poisoning its power to persuade. Cassandra held the worst job in any organization, permanently correct, permanently ignored, and blamed when the disaster arrived. And Troy pays for that disbelief. Across different surviving traditions, she warns of Paris, the wooden horse, Troy's destruction, and even her own murder. Every warning lands as noise. This is the curse's real design, the punishment of being right again and again, but believed only after the warning can no longer save anyone. In many symbolic readings, Cassandra represents a particular kind of divine cruelty, a gift twisted so completely that it becomes indistinguishable from a wound. In Ovid's Roman account, the hunter Actaeon does not set out to offend a goddess. He simply wanders, mid-hunt, into a sacred grove where Diana bathes with her attendants. He sees what a mortal is never permitted to see, and Diana answers with a transformation built entirely around irony. She turns the hunter into the animal his own life has trained him to kill. The horror of Actaeon's curse is not the antlers or the hooves. It is that his mind remains his own, while his body becomes prey. He understands exactly what is happening as his hounds, dogs he has raised and trained himself, catch his scent and give chase. He tries to call out his own name. No human voice comes. Diana has not simply punished a man, she has built a trap out of his own life, using the hunting pack he trained as the instrument of his death. To his companions, the creature being torn apart is only another stag. Only Actaeon knows whose death they are watching. Macha's story begins with her husband Chronocu's pride. At a royal assembly, Chronocu boasts that his pregnant wife can outrun the king's fastest horses. The king demands proof. Macha begs them to wait until after the birth. They refuse, and she is forced onto the track while already on the verge of giving birth. She wins the race. Then, in front of the entire assembly, she gives birth to twins. But as Macha collapses in the dirt, she pronounces a sentence that will not strike immediately. It will wait until Ulster needs its warriors most. In one prominent recension, Macha condemns the men of Ulster and their descendants to suffer her own labor pains for 4 days and 5 nights. Whenever the province faces its greatest danger, they keep all their strength until the precise moment Ulster needs it. The curse does not make them permanently weak. It makes their strength arrive too late, long after the guilty men themselves have turned to dust. Enkidu is not a man born to die young. He is wild-born, raised among wild animals, and created by the gods as the one man strong enough to stand against Gilgamesh. He soon becomes the companion who makes Gilgamesh's greatest victories possible. Together, they kill Humbaba, then they slay the Bull of Heaven, and Enkidu seals the insult by tearing off its thigh and throwing it at the goddess Ishtar. After Humbaba, the Bull of Heaven, and this final act of defiance, the Divine Council passes judgment. One of the two heroes must die for what they have done. In the surviving epic tradition, Shamash argues that Enkidu acted with divine help and should not be condemned, but the verdict stands. The decree is clean and total. No transformation, no visible mark, only a divine sentence revealed through dreams that show him his death approaching before the illness itself arrives. What follows is not a battle. It is 12 days of sickness and decline. A wilderness champion who once wrestled Gilgamesh to a standstill, now dying slowly in a bed while his closest friend can do nothing but sit beside him and watch the strength leave his body, unable to bargain with the gods or slow what is coming. His death transforms Gilgamesh's grief into the question that drives the rest of the epic. If Enkidu could die, what protection did greatness offer anyone? Some curses attack a person. This one attacks a city. In the Sumerian poem that imagines the disaster, King Naram-Sin marches on Nippur and desecrates the Akur, the sacred temple of the god Enlil. In the poem, Enlil withdraws his favor, and everything that sustains Agade begins to fail. Grain vanishes from the storehouses, canals empty, fields that had fed an empire produce nothing worth harvesting. The silence in the poem is almost as frightening as any monster. Empty granaries, abandoned workshops, and streets where commerce and prayer alike have gone quiet. Where Cassandra and Actaeon suffer as individuals, the entire city suffers together. Its harvests, its trade, and its temples all withering at once. Agade collapses from the outside inward. The next dynasty rots from the inside outward. In the Ming Dynasty epic investiture of the gods, King Zhou of Shang visits the temple of the goddess Nuwa and writes an obscure, possessive poem on the temple wall, treating a creator goddess as though royal power entitled him to possess even her beauty. Nuwa's response is not immediate destruction. It is divine judgment disguised as court intrigue. She dispatches spirits into King Zhou's court with instructions to hasten the fall of a dynasty whose fortune, in the epic's telling, is already fading. This is a different kind of collapse entirely, one that starts not with famine, but with flattery. One of these spirits takes over Daji's identity and enters the palace as the king's consort, amplifying his lust, suspicion, decadence, and cruelty, corroding the court's judgment long before any army arrives at the gates. Loyal advisors are executed on suspicion, replaced by flatterers who tell the king only what he wants to hear. Honesty becomes dangerous, torture becomes court entertainment, and the palace grows more luxurious as the kingdom beneath it begins to fracture. The machinery of a dynasty keeps functioning while its purpose quietly disappears. By the time the surviving ministers understand what has entered the court, the kingdom's own institutions are already serving the forces destroying it. Even the spirits Nuwa sends do not escape judgment. They exceed the mission she gave them and commit atrocities she never authorized. Even agents sent to enforce divine judgment can become corrupted by the human world they enter. The gods have destroyed reputations, armies, empires, and dynasties. But the next curse condemns one man to outlive the mercy of death itself. Ashwatthama is born with a divine jewel embedded in his forehead, granting him extraordinary protection. In the Mahabharata, after the war ends, he enters the Pandava camp at night and massacres sleeping warriors, including the sons of the Pandavas. He then directs the Brahmashira weapon toward Uttara's womb, attempting to kill the last surviving heir of the Pandava line before the child could even be born. Krishna does not grant him execution. He forces him to survive his punishment. Krishna tears the jewel from Ashwatthama's forehead, stripping him of the protection he had possessed since birth. He is condemned to wander the earth for 3,000 years, wounded, diseased, exiled from human contact, and denied the relief that death normally grants to mortal suffering. This is a condemnation built on subtraction rather than addition. It does not give Ashwatthama new suffering so much as it removes his access to the only thing that ends suffering, the one relief every other mortal takes for granted. 3,000 years is not eternity, but it is long enough for kingdoms to rise and vanish, languages to disappear, and everyone who knew why he was punished to become dust. Ashwatthama remains outside every settlement, carrying the punishment long after the world around him has forgotten why he was condemned. In the Kojiki, one of Japan's earliest surviving mythic chronicles, the goddess Izanami dies, giving birth to the fire deity Kagutsuchi, and her husband Izanagi, unable to accept her death, follows her into Yomi, the land of the dead, to bring her back. She tells him not to look at her while she consults the deities of Yomi about returning to the living world. Impatience overcomes him. He breaks a tooth from his comb, lights it, and looks. What he sees is decay, and Izanami, ashamed and enraged, sends the forces of Yomi after him. Izanagi escapes and seals the entrance to Yomi with an enormous boulder, and there, across the sealed stone, Izanami speaks the curse that gives the entire list its final scale. She declares that she will kill 1,000 people from the world of the living every day. It is not a curse aimed at a single hero, a single family, or a single city. It is the fate that Japanese myth places beneath the daily rhythm of human mortality. Izanagi's response is the detail that turns this myth from a ghost story into an origin point for how life and death are balanced. He does not fight the curse or beg for its reversal. He counters her arithmetic with arithmetic of his own, vowing that 1,500 people will be born every day in return. Not a cancellation, an outpacing. Within the myth, every birth becomes a reply to Izanami's demand, and every death becomes the debt still being collected. Life does not defeat Izanami's curse. It survives only by staying 500 births ahead of it. Divine curses were not simple bursts of anger, but judgments written into prophecy, bodies, armies, kingdoms, and even the rhythm of birth and death. Their deepest horror was that no mortal response could restore the world that existed before the gods pronounced judgment. Tell us which curse you would fear most. Then like, subscribe, and watch the next Mythic Sun video, because in mythology, escaping the god was often only the beginning.